I built my entire life like a fortress, a perfectly optimized system. I honestly thought I could debug the messiness of human emotion, just code it right out of existence. But, well, I was about to hit a glitch, one I couldn't patch. And this bug, it wasn't in the code. It was in my heart.
A beautiful chaos, that's what they say. For me, that was just another name for a system failure.
So, to really get how I ended up here, you kind of have to understand the world I built for myself. It was a place where everything had a clean, verifiable ending. Even something as messy as grief.
abs. Elfa watch for the blended as abs.
And that brings me to my job, my profession. I was a mourner for dead code. Seriously, I'd go into these cold server rooms and write eulogies in Python for decommissioned AIs. It was clean, it was final, verifiable. You know, everything people aren't.
You could say my career path was eclectic. It was really a series of deep dives into just how strange humans are. I mean, I was once fired from a job as a professional sleeper because I had, and I quote, aggressively anxious dreams. Every single one of these weird jobs just hammered home the same point. Human behavior is a system I was much better off just observing from the outside.
And yeah, that detachment definitely bled into my personal life. Dating apps, for me, that wasn't about finding love. It was a data sorting exercise, pure and simple. My thumb basically became a machine learning model. Architect, swipe right. Guy holding a giant fish, swipe left. It was emotional data governance at its finest.
But here's the thing about perfect systems. They all have a glitch somewhere. In mine, it wasn't some big surge of emotion or a moment of weakness. No, it was something so infuriatingly mundane. A simple calendar notification. That's what triggered the critical system error. My thumb just stuttered for a second. And that was it. I accidentally swiped right on, well, this, a profile that offended every single one of my systemic sensibilities. The glitch art, the clashing text. It was a bug in the system, a total anomaly, a profile I was basically programmed to reject. And of course, we matched. Our relationship, if you can call it that, was just surreal. He'd send me love poems embedded on the blockchain. He hacked my local coffee shop's loyalty system so I could have free lattes. It was this totally frictionless, purely logical romance. But even with all that perfect code, I started to crave something else. Something messy, a real human heartbeat. You know that disruption I was craving? It did end up coming from an app. It came from the real physical world, from a place I would have never logically chosen to go. I was taking a shortcut, of all things, through this grimy alley. I felt like an alien there. It was so far from my pristine, ordered world. And then I saw it, on this dirty wall, a QR code. It felt like a side-channel attack on my reality, you know? A real-world vector designed to get past all my digital defenses. I had to scan. And that code, it opened up the story of a man named Alberto Daniel Hill. He was a cybersecurity expert who'd been wrongfully imprisoned. His life had been, well, decommissioned by a system error. It was just like the AIs I mourned for a living. But his pain wasn't just lines of code. It was visceral, it was real. And his story, it just blew right through my firewall. So now I had these two entities in my life. On one hand, Satoshi's perfect, cold logic. On the other, Alberto's flawed, messy humanity. I was stuck. So I did the only thing that made sense to me. I turned my love life into a full-blown research project, a formal 5-stage A/B test. And let me tell you, the data was conclusive. In every single test, Satoshi's flawless logic just got crushed by Alberto's messy human chaos. The final test really sealed the deal. My houseplant died. Satoshi immediately offered to source replacement plants. Alberto, he just looked at it and said, "That sucks." And then he told me a story about a dog he once had named Steve. In that moment, I realized connection was so much more important than a solution. Yeah, the conclusion was undeniable. 5 rounds, 5 wins for messy, chaotic human connection. So I chose Alberto. I chose to embrace the unpredictable. But this whole story, it isn't just about making a choice. It's about what you do after. My journey needed one last step, a final synthesis of everything I'd learned. I had to leave my own indelible mark on the world. And I knew exactly how I was going to do it. On January 3rd, 2029, and this is wild, exactly 20 years to the day after the original Bitcoin Genesis block was mined, I decided to create my own Genesis block. It would be my personal declaration, etched forever onto the most permanent public ledger in existence. See, I still had the keys to Satoshi's original wallet, so I initiated one final transaction. I sent a tiny, near zero amount of Bitcoin. The value didn't matter at all. What mattered was the message I embedded inside of it.
I took Alberto's own words, his raw description of the day he was arrested, and I embedded that message right onto the blockchain. I basically co-opted this tool of pure logic to create an eternal monument to one man's suffering and injustice, a permanent, unerasable scar on the public record.
And with that, my transformation was complete. I finally understood that humanity isn't some bug that needs to be fixed. It's the beautiful, chaotic glitch that gives life all of its meaning. And that kind of leaves one big question for all of us, right? In a world where our stories can be etched into stone forever, what indelible mark do you want to leave?